The hum of the military transport plane was a lullaby in motion, a constant vibration that seemed to hold the world at bay. Outside the tiny round windows, clouds passed like slow, moving ghosts, gray and silver under the fading sunlight. In the dim cabin, Navy Admiral Richard Hale, decorated and disciplined, sat stiffly in his uniform, shoulders tense with the invisible weight of command. Across the aisle, a man in a worn hoodie and works, stained jeans adjusted a backpack at his feet, glancing nervously at the other passengers. His name was Lucas Mayers, a janitor for the base, a single father trying to hold together the fragile balance of work, parenting, and survival after life had thrown him a few too many punches. Neither man expected the day to unfold like it did. The flight had been unusually quiet. Hale's mind, always alert to threats, orders, schedules, was heavy with concern for an upcoming operation he couldn't discuss, not even with his crew. Lucas, exhausted from a long shift cleaning floors and bathrooms, carrying the residual stress of his young daughter's constant needs, slumped into his seat, hoping for just an hour of peace. Somehow, in that quiet cabin, a strange alignment of exhaustion and trust occurred. When the Admiral's head tipped unexpectedly onto Lucas' shoulder, a rare, unguarded moment passed between them. Lucas stiffened at first, startled by the weight of authority and the sheer unexpectedness of it. He almost moved, almost rebuked the uniformed figure on instinct, but then he felt it. How fragile Hale seemed, how human beneath the medals and polished shoes. Instead of a rigid presence, it was as if the Admiral was just another tired man, carrying a burden too heavy to bear alone. Lucas shifted slightly to accommodate him, careful not to wake the man or draw attention. In that simple gesture, a quiet understanding began to grow. Hours passed. Hale slept, but his subconscious betrayed him. He murmured fragments of worry, names of people Lucas had never met, situations Lucas could only imagine. And Lucas, listening, pieced together the truth. This was a man whose life, though powerful on the surface, was defined by loneliness, sacrifices, and responsibilities that crushed him in ways no rank could shield. It wasn't long before turbulence shook the plane, jolting Hale awake. Embarrassment flashed in his eyes when he realized where he'd been resting, but he said nothing, only nodded a silent thanks to Lucas. They fell into an unspoken rhythm, Lucas talking quietly about his daughter, his small daily victories and defeats, and Hale listening, sharing faint glimpses of a life constrained by duty. But life outside that airplane was not so forgiving. Lucas faced financial strain, the threat of losing custody of his daughter to overbearing relatives, and the relentless pressure of a job that barely made ends meet. Hale, in turn, faced the daunting challenge of an operation that could cost lives, the moral weight of command, and the suffocating isolation that came with being untouchable, always above the fray. When the plane landed, neither man knew what the other's life was truly like beyond those hours in the air. But fate had other plans. The base experienced a sudden emergency during the very operation Hale had been anxious about, and Lucas, working his janitorial rounds, found himself unexpectedly in the path of a crisis. Without hesitation, he helped evacuate personnel from a compromised area, using instincts honed from years of navigating chaos at home with a young child. Hale, witnessing it from the command center, recognized a courage that was rare, not from training, but from necessity. The courage of someone who had faced relentless struggle with no fanfare or medals. Afterward, Hale sought Lucas out. The conversation that followed was quiet, personal, and profoundly human. Hale offered support, not charity, but recognition, mentorship, and a bridge to opportunities Lucas never imagined he could reach. In turn, Lucas reminded Hale of life beyond rank and duty, the simple truths of connection, love, and resilience that even the most decorated lives can lack. Over time, their bond grew, rooted in mutual respect, empathy, and an understanding that the strongest leaders sometimes need the grounding of ordinary humanity. Luca's daughter even came to know Hale as a steadfast friend who understood the struggles of her father and offered guidance without ever overstepping. The story of that flight became an unspoken legend at the base, not because an admiral slept on a janitor's shoulder, but because it revealed something deeper. That strength isn't always loud, that courage comes in many forms, and that sometimes the human heart needs just one unexpected connection to remind it it's not alone. By the end, both men had changed. Lucas found stability and renewed hope, realizing that his worth was not measured solely by his job or struggles, but by the resilience and love he carried. Hale learned that leadership wasn't just about authority. It was about humanity, humility, and the people who quietly hold the world together behind the scenes. In a world defined by rank, titles, and responsibility, the most profound truth they discovered was this: sometimes salvation comes from a simple act of trust, a shoulder to lean on, and the courage to see the person behind the uniform. And in that quiet, suspended moment above the clouds, two very different lives converged in a way that neither would ever forget. A reminder that human connection can emerge in the most unlikely places, and when it does, it can change everything.